I'm a fan of technology, though, just so you know, but it really is a blessing and a curse. Wow. While everyone was marveling at all of this, all of that Jesus did, he said to his disciples. So again, I'm thankful to be here. This is my first time, so it's pretty cool. And so it'll be interesting as I'm here 4 times. Very faithful church. You just booked me 4 times. Didn't even know me, so yeah, good. I could be terrible. Anyone worried? No, okay. So I appreciate the sermon title. That was nice. So the title is The Mountaintop Experience. When I was in high school, so people don't know me very well, obviously. I went to Lake High School. So, yeah. Whoa, I heard someone. What? Who was that? Yeah. So when I was in high school, I went out west on a mission trip. That was significant for me because in my home, we didn't have much. So being able to go out west was like a big deal. I pretty much had to have a scholarship to go out west. So I worked really, really hard to get there. And I worked really, really hard to go out west on this mission trip. The strange thing about Christians is we use our vacation time, or we work really hard. We use our extra resources to go on do mission work. So we go out, we spend all of our extra money to go do more hard work. So it was significant because again I didn't have much. So we went out west on an Indian reservation. I remember thinking when I got out there that the sun must have been closer out west because it was like burning hot out. And so one of the first things we had to do when we got out west was we actually had to fix the outhouse. So I was like this young, I was like a young punk kid. I really was. So I was this young kid. We get to this Indian reservation that I had worked really hard to finally get to this point. And what do I see? There's not even a bathroom. The walls of the bathroom had literally been torn down by the sand and the wind. So the first thing we had to do was fix the restroom. And not to make matters worse, the people in this community didn't have much. So they actually stole the walls and the wood and the resources that came from it. So there literally were no walls. So the first thing we did is we had to construct this temporary wall around the bathroom. And what came next was a ton of work. So thankfully, part of that mission trip, pretty much probably the reason I really attended, was hanging out with all my friends. And finally, we got a chance to do some sightseeing. As many of you know who's from Northwest Ohio, we lack something, right? And we like mountains, exactly. It's so flat here. But being in the military, I've met tons of people. So when people come here from a place that's very mountainous, they're like, look how amazing this is. You can see for miles. We literally can see as far as our eyes will let us see in Northwest Ohio. But on this mission trip, it was the first time I had ever really seen mountains. And to me, it was the most magnificent sight. At one particular time in our sightseeing experiences, we actually stopped to stretch our legs at the top of this mountain. I was in awe, first off, of the view. It was so beautiful. And it gets even better than this. On the top of this mountain, where we had been working for a couple of days on this Indian reservation in the dead of summer, there was this patch of snow. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. This patch of snow to me, being from Northwest Ohio, was completely out of place. I'm like, how the heck is there a patch of snow in the dead of summer? But there's this patch of snow. So in the middle of this challenging time, we were able to stretch our legs for just a moment and rest. And we actually had a snowball fight. They let us play until it seemed that we had used up literally all the snow. There was no more good snow that you could compact and make a snowball because it was all over the place. And we headed down the mountain to the work ahead. Within the gospel text today, we find Jesus, Peter, John, and James going up to a mountain. Jesus was headed to pray, to find rest. During his time on the mountain, his face changed. His clothes became a dazzling white. I believe that points to the fact that this Jesus person, right, there was just more to him. Then what came next is the appearance of Moses and Elijah. Trace that back to the Old Testament. Again, pointing to the fact that this Jesus was something greater. Pointing to the fact that Jesus was not an ordinary teacher. Jesus was and is something of past and of future. Next, Peter asked to construct 3 dwellings for Jesus, Moses, and Elijah so they can stay on the protection, on the rest, on the comfort of that mountain. Next, we hear a cloud appears. This is my son. Listen to him. Jesus is found alone, and the cloud departs. And the next day, Jesus comes down from the mountain and into the valley, into the broken places of the human condition, to unite the past and bring about a different future. That's the part I like to focus on. Jesus came down from the mountain. Like Jesus, we are called to rebuke the so-called unclean spirits, the powers that be, and shed light into the lives of our communities as Christ has done for us. We are called to invite them to the snowball fight, if you will, as he did for me. We are called to invite them up to the mountain as he did for the disciples. We are called to invite them to be healed as he did for the boy. We are called to come off the mountain. Today we are called to get off the mountain and face the reality that we are called to be transfigured, transformed, made new, so that we can go and lead others to the transfiguring love of God that will illuminate our very being. We are called to get off the mountain and be transformed so that we can live lives more fully, so that we can share the light that shines in the face of Christ with a world that lives in the valley of darkness and death. We are called to do way more, always, and I always preach to myself first. We are called to do way more than what we are doing today. We are called to act as Christ did on earth and love people so dearly that we are willing to sacrifice everything. As we move outside the protection of the mountain, we are called to love like God has loved us and venture into the valley. Today, let's at least fall off the mountain. Sometimes it's okay to be pushed. Sometimes that's the only way we get down. We are called to get off the mountain one way or another. On the next day, when they had come down from the mountain, a great crowd had met him. Jesus, a man from the crowd, shouted, "Teacher, I beg you to look at my son. He is my only child." Suddenly a spirit seizes him. And then Jesus says, "You faithless and perversive generation, how much longer must I be with you?" Jesus rebuked the unclean spirit, and all were astounded at his greatness. Jesus came down off the mountain and went to the work of casting out demons, setting people free. And I truly believe that we are all called to do likewise. Today, let's at least tumble down the mountain. We are called to get off the mountain. Today we are challenged to go on a journey down off the mountain, off the safety and assuredness that it brings. To fight our instincts that tells us to build a dwelling and stay safe inside. Rather, we are called to do as Christ would do. We are called to venture into the valley and to do the work of God in this world. The road we walk isn't something that ends when we are retired, fallen ill, when we feel defeated, when we think we have it all together, when we're on top of a mountain, feeling safe and secure in our faith. We venture into the valley, or sometimes For me, we fall face first, directly off that thing. Because we have the discipline, sometimes forced, to keep walking, and the courage, again, sometimes forced, to plunge forward, maybe face first, into the difficult work ahead. We walk or stumble down the mountain trying to live like Christ did, because we understand how truly amazing it is that the God of creation loves all people. And it's in this love that we find hope, that when we cry out, God, here I am, and it's our hope that he will respond. God, we cry out as we find ourselves in the valley sometimes in our lives. And we, like the disciples, are powerless in the face of adversity. It's our hope that God meets us where we are. God meets us not on the mountain, but rather in the valley of our lives, in the dark places. It's time to get off the mountain and get to the difficult work ahead of being the church in a fallen, broken world. Today, let's at least crawl down the mountain. We are called to move out of the valley. Psalms 3, 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. The reality is, myself definitely included, is that few of us really trust in God's love. So we fail to come off the mountain into the valley and back out again, to go back up the mountain and back down the valley, and just keep doing that over and over again. Very few are willing to make the appropriate sacrifices, myself included, in order to change the lives of the lost and share the love that will sanctify the soul. The mountain is much safer for some, and for others, there are some that are stuck in the chaos and darkness of the valley. For me, I often get stuck on the mountain. I get stuck in enjoying that snow that was out of place and the views that were magnificent, the safety, the security. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and he will make your path straight. We are called to move out of the valley. As we trust God more and more each day, we are truly able to live into the call that God has placed on each and every one of us. A call to share the love of God with people so they can start living more fully today. A call to join people where they are in their lives and share in their suffering and in their pain and usher them out of the valley and up the mountain so you and I together can go back down and meet the needs of the lost all over again. As we trust God more and more each day, we are truly able to live in the safety of the mountain, even when we are in the valley. Today, let us walk down the mountain. You all have the amazing responsibility, myself included, to bury whatever hatchet you need to bury as you journey through the valley and back up the mountain. I think if you're not growing, I think if you leave here today or any day without being changed or even considering that we all need to be transformed daily, transfigured in God's love, my prayer is that you and I, that will reconsider. Were not your hearts burning within you while God, through the Spirit, was talking to you on the road, on the path, down the mountain? Unfortunately, many of us, probably all of us at times in our lives, we've kind of backslid in our response as we should as the church. I pray that today, God will shake us all up. And we will not backtrack to the safety of the mountain or the old ways of the valley for some that have stalled growth in our lives and ultimately led to a type of spiritual death. I pray that God will work in this place and you will stand strong in the continued presence of God in your life that will shine through you and into the world. I pray when you feel the movement of the Spirit, your heart's burning, you will let that feeling lead you into a new way of thinking and a new pattern of behavior. That you will travel off the mountain and be able to guide yourself through the valley. Today, let us run down the mountain. We are the church, and I think we are called to act in this world. We are called to the most important job there is, and that's making disciples and becoming disciples ourselves so that all can be saved yesterday, today, and tomorrow, so we can all live into our full potential, so that all can begin the journey, the fall, the crawl, the walk, the run, off the mountain and through the valley, into a fuller life that is doing the work of the church. The road is narrow, but our God is a great excavator that will widen the road and make room for all people. Finally, we are the church, the people, right? Not the building. And we've struggled for too long to do what we have been charged with doing. So it's time to act. It's time to share the great love of God with the rest of the world, a world that is not on top of the mountain, but rather in the valley of the shadow of death. Today, let us run down the mountain and trust in the presence of God in our lives that shines light into the darkest places so we can do the same for the world. Amen. Yeah.